It's hard to believe how quickly everything changed, how a quiet period of mourning turned into a bewildering battle. I'm Kalen, 28 years old, and this story is about my grandfather, Alistair Finch. He was more than just my grandfather. He was a mentor, a friend, an eccentric inventor. His home, Finchwood Manor, just outside Oak Haven, was a place filled with his unique creations and endless secrets. He always told me I would inherit his legacy, not just his wealth, but his wisdom and the spirit of the manor. I spent countless hours there, learning from him, exploring, and building a bond that felt truly special. When grandfather Alistair passed away, it left a huge hole in my life. The days after were a blur of sadness. I was staying at Finchwood Manor, trying to help settle his affairs, surrounded by the echoes of his life. Then came the day of the will reading. We gathered at the local probate office. It was a formal, hushed setting, far removed from the vibrant energy of grandfather Alistair himself. My mother-in-law, Seraphina Blackwood, was there. She's Alistair's estranged niece, and honestly, she's always been an imposing woman, very focused on material things. She has a strong sense of entitlement. I remember thinking it was a bit odd that she was there at all, given their distant relationship. The lawyer began to read the will, and that's when everything twisted. The will, as it was read aloud, named her, Seraphina, as the sole beneficiary of the entire estate. My grandfather Alistair's entire fortune, Finchwood Manor, everything he had built, was going to her. There was no mention of me, no mention of anyone else. It was as if I, and everything my grandfather had ever promised, simply didn't exist in that document. I sat there in stunned silence, my mind reeling. It felt like a punch to the gut. I couldn't comprehend it. My grandfather would never have disinherited me. It went against everything he ever said, everything we shared. Seraphina, meanwhile, had a look of pure triumph on her face, a subtle smirk playing on her lips, and almost immediately she began to assert her new ownership, claiming the manor and all its contents. The grief I felt for my grandfather was suddenly mixed with a profound sense of shock and betrayal. This couldn't be right. The shock of that will reading, of Seraphina being named the sole beneficiary, lingered with me. I just couldn't believe it. My grandfather Alistair was a man of great foresight and a loving spirit. He wouldn't have just cut me off, not after all his promises, not after our bond. Seraphina, meanwhile, wasted no time. She immediately moved into Finchwood Manor, acting as if she owned the place entirely. She started talking about liquidating some of the assets, even mentioned trying to evict me, who had been staying there to help settle things. It was cold, and it solidified my gut feeling that something was deeply wrong. I confided in my wife, Lyra. She was torn, caught between me and her mother's aggressive new stance. Lyra is a kind person, and she loves me deeply, but her mother can be very overbearing. Initially, Lyra seemed to believe her mother, perhaps a bit overwhelmed by Seraphina's forceful presence. But as Seraphina became more ruthless in her actions, the coldness started to show, and I could see Lyra beginning to question things too. I remembered a peculiar conversation I had with grandfather Alistair not long before he passed. He had spoken about hidden treasures and true intentions. At the time, I thought he was just being his usual eccentric self, speaking in riddles as he often did. But now, those words came back to me. They sparked a desperate hope that maybe, just maybe, there was more to this than met the eye. Driven by this hope, and my unwavering belief in my grandfather's character, I decided to seek legal counsel. I contacted attorney Elias Vance, a lawyer I had heard was meticulous and sharp, especially in probate law. I laid out the whole story for him, everything from my relationship with Alistair to the bewildering will reading and Seraphina's immediate actions. Elias listened patiently, his expression thoughtful. He agreed that the will, being so simple, and absolute, seemed unusually out of character for a man of Alastair's complexity and wealth. He believed my suspicion had merit. Our investigation was about to begin. With Elias Vance taking on my case, a faint glimmer of hope started to return. Our first step was to thoroughly search Finchwood Manor. I knew that if Grandfather Alastair had a secret, it would be hidden within the walls of his beloved estate. He had a mischievous sense of humor and a lifelong love for riddles and secret compartments. The manor itself felt like a giant puzzle designed by him. Lyra, my wife, though still caught between her loyalty to me and the complicated emotions surrounding her mother, hesitantly joined in the search. She wanted to believe her grandfather, Alastair, was truly good and that this was all a misunderstanding. Seraphina, meanwhile, was fully established at Finchwood Manor. She dismissed our efforts as desperate attempts by a greedy relative. She made it clear she thought we were wasting our time. Her lawyer, attorney Brenda Croft, was equally aggressive. She immediately tried to shut down Elias Vance's legal inquiries, claiming the will was clear and there was nothing more to discuss. But Elias was persistent. He believed in my story, and he knew that unusual wills sometimes had hidden layers. My search began in Alastair's study, a room filled with his old books, quirky gadgets, and the lingering scent of aged paper and pipe tobacco. I spent hours, sometimes days, just looking, touching, remembering our conversations. I recalled Alastair's peculiar habit of tapping certain spots on the walls when he was thinking deeply. One afternoon, running my hand along a section of the wooden paneling, I felt a slight give. Behind a loose brick, hidden in plain sight, I found it. A small, yellowed piece of paper. It was a cryptic note, in Alastair's familiar handwriting, hinting at a second key and a true testament. The discovery sent a jolt of electricity through me. This was it. This was the proof I needed. I immediately showed it to Lyra, and her eyes widened in disbelief and a growing sense of vindication. We were on the right track. The hunt was on for the second key, leading us on a bewildering scavenger hunt through the manor, deciphering old family jokes and Alastair's eccentric puzzles. Each clue was a little piece of him, a reminder of his brilliance and his unique way of seeing the world. The discovery of the cryptic note about a second key and a true testament ignited a fierce determination in me. Lyra, my wife, was now fully invested. Seeing the undeniable proof of Grandfather Alastair's foresight and the quiet betrayal implied by Seraphina's actions solidified her resolve. The scavenger hunt through Finchwood Manor became our shared mission. We deciphered old family jokes, riddles that only Grandfather Alastair could have devised. He had a way of embedding profound messages in seemingly whimsical puzzles. Each clue led us through different parts of the manor, from the dusty attic filled with forgotten heirlooms, to the sprawling gardens, each corner holding a memory of him. Seraphina, still confident in her control, remained dismissive. Her lawyer, Brenda Croft, aggressively tried to shut down Elias Vance's legal inquiries, but Elias was unwavering. He knew we were onto something important, and he continued to push for our right to investigate. The hunt finally led us to Grandfather Alastair's old workshop. This was his sanctuary, a place of organized chaos where he spent countless hours tinkering and inventing. It was here, amidst the scent of sawdust and old metal, that we found it. Hidden behind a movable panel, disguised as part of a cluttered workbench, was a small, ornate wooden box. It was old, intricately carved, and felt significant just by its presence. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside, nestled on a velvet cushion, was a single aged key. It was unlike any other key in the manor. And beside it, a sealed envelope, crisp despite its age, clearly marked my true testament. My heart pounded. This was it. This was the moment we had been searching for. the truth that would unravel Serafina's deception. I immediately called Elias Vance. His voice, usually so calm, held a note of excitement when I described what we had found. He instructed me to secure the document and the key, and prepare for the next step. The legal battle was about to take a dramatic turn. We had the evidence, the undeniable proof that Grandfather Alistair had planned for this, that he had foreseen the very greed that Serafina had so readily displayed. The path to justice was now clear, but I knew the fight was far from over. The day of the court hearing arrived, crisp and formal, mirroring the tension that filled the Oakhaven County Courthouse. Attorney Elias Vance and I stood ready. Elias was confident, but I felt a knot of anxiety in my stomach. So much hinged on this. Serafina and her lawyer, Attorney Brenda Croft, were already there, sitting opposite us. Brenda Croft looked aggressive and confident, her demeanor suggesting she believed she had an open and shut case. Serafina herself wore a self-satisfied smirk, her gaze occasionally drifting to me with a look of disdain. She clearly thought I was making a fool of myself. The courtroom was hushed as Judge Evelyn Reed entered and took her seat. Judge Reed was known for her sharp intellect and meticulous attention to detail, a reputation that gave me some comfort. Elias Vance began by formally presenting the newly discovered document, the sealed envelope marked "My True Testament," along with the unique aged key. He explained how it was found in a hidden compartment in Grandfather Alistair's old workshop, a place filled with his intricate inventions. Serafina's lawyer, Brenda Croft, immediately interjected, dismissing the new evidence as a desperate fabrication, a last-ditch effort by a greedy relative to overturn a clear will. She argued that the first will was legally sound and that this new document was likely forged or irrelevant. Judge Reed listened calmly, her expression unreadable, as she took the sealed envelope into her hands. The air in the courtroom felt thick with anticipation as Judge Reed meticulously examined the document. She carefully broke the seal, and the sound seemed unusually loud in the quiet room. My heart pounded in my chest. This was the moment of truth. She began to read Alistair Finch's secret will aloud. The words filled the courtroom, clear and deliberate. The will meticulously detailed my inheritance, outlining specific properties, investments, and even a trust for Lyra, my wife, conditional on her support of me. It was everything my grandfather had ever promised. But then, the true genius of Alistair's plan began to unfold. The will explicitly stated that he had created the initial, simple will to test the true intentions of those around him, especially Serafina's greed. He wrote that the true testament was only to be revealed if the first will was acted upon without question, proving the true character of the beneficiaries. Serafina's triumphant smirk vanished as Judge Reed continued to read Grandfather Alistair's secret will, her face contorted in a mix of utter shock and fury. The will went on to detail her complete disinheritance, stating explicitly that her immediate and aggressive actions to claim the initial will's contents, without question or pause, proved her true character. It was a meticulous plan, designed to expose her greed for all to see. The very actions she had taken to secure the inheritance were now being used as the reason for her losing it. Attorney Brenda Croft, Serafina's lawyer, looked stunned. She immediately tried to challenge the secret will, arguing against its validity. She claimed it was unusual, perhaps even a forgery, and that the first will should stand. But Elias Vance, my lawyer, was ready. He presented all the evidence of Grandfather Alistair's intricate mind, his love for puzzles, and his careful planning. He showed how the true testament was undeniably authentic, with all the necessary legal hallmarks and Alistair's signature, verified by experts. Judge Evelyn Reed, known for her sharp eye and meticulous attention to detail, carefully reviewed everything. She found no room for doubt. The courtroom remained hushed every eye on Serafina as the judge's words sealed her fate. The public humiliation was palpable. She was stripped of her ill-gotten gains, her schemes laid bare for everyone present to witness. For me, it was a profound sense of vindication. The despair I had felt at the first will reading, the confusion and the sense of betrayal, began to lift. This was justice. Lyra, my wife, sat beside me, her hand finding mine. Her initial hesitation, her being caught between her mother and me, had completely dissolved. Witnessing her mother's true colors, her raw greed exposed in such a public manner, and seeing Grandfather Alistair's meticulous plan, fully embraced Lyra's side. Her relationship with her mother, already strained by Serafina's overbearing nature, was now irrevocably changed. She had seen the truth, undeniable and clear. Taking rightful possession of Finchwood Manor and Grandfather Alistair's true legacy felt surreal. It wasn't just about the wealth, though that was significant. It was about the vindication, the profound sense of justice that had been served. Serafina's aggressive lawyer, Brenda Croft, had tried to challenge the secret will, but Alistair's meticulous planning and Judge Evelyn Reed's sharp eye left no room for doubt. Serafina was left publicly humiliated and stripped of her ill-gotten gains. Her greed had ultimately led to her downfall. Lyra and I, our bond strengthened by this extraordinary adversity, began a new chapter. Her witnessing her mother's true colors and my unwavering integrity had solidified her trust in me completely. Her relationship with her mother was irrevocably changed, as she truly saw how Serafina prioritized material gain over family connection. We decided to honor Grandfather Alistair's spirit in a meaningful way. We established a foundation in his name, dedicated to supporting young inventors, particularly those from disadvantaged backgrounds. It felt like the perfect way to carry on his legacy, to foster the kind of creativity and free thinking he so cherished. Finchwood Manor, instead of being a battleground, became a place of learning and inspiration once more. Serafina was left with nothing, her grand schemes unraveling before her eyes. It was a stark reminder that cunning and manipulation, while seemingly offering immediate gains, are no match for meticulous planning, a strong moral compass, and the unwavering pursuit of justice. My grandfather, even in his passing, had taught us one final profound lesson. This entire experience changed my perspective on inheritance. It's not just about money or property. It's about wisdom, integrity, and the enduring value of genuine relationships. My grandfather had always told me that the true treasure was in the journey, not just the destination. And he had proven it with his very last act, ensuring that character